Hi guys, this is Lada from astrolada.com with your next video, Mars in houses, and this is Mars in the 4th house. And you can find out if you have Mars in the 4th house by going to my birth chart calculator, entering your details. You need to know your time of birth in order to know where Mars falls in your horoscope. Enter your time of birth, and once you see the charts, check out if Mars, MA, it's abbreviated MA, is together with the planet, is together with the number 4, which means it's with the 4th house cusp. But I also want you to check if Mars falls in the 4th sign from the ascendant, which is the whole sign house system. Both those systems work. So say if you have ascendant in Libra and Mars falls in Capricorn, it's in the 4th sign from Libra, you have Mars in the 4th house. So check out if Mars is with the 4th. Usually they coincide. The number 4 is in the 4th sign from the ascendant, but sometimes there is a difference. And if there is a difference, I want you to listen to it. I want you to say Mars might be in the 5th sign from the ascendant with the 4th house cusp. Mars might be in the 4th sign from the ascendant, but they might be the 5th house cusp. So I want you to listen both for the 4th and the 5th houses, Mars in both of those, because Mars will affect both of them. And by the way, this is Lada from astrolada.com. And check out all my free and paid webinars and courses if you want to learn astrology more in depth. I give very specialized knowledge there. Even if you don't know astrology, check out all my courses and all my webinars here on this link. Okay, now let's see what happens if you have Mars in the 4th house. It can be it can be said that Mars in the 4th house can act similar to Mars in Cancer. And the 4th house, Mars is such a planet that wants to be out there, to do things, to, go conquer the world, and that it wants to, to spread its wings and be active and dynamic. And when it's in the 4th house is our home. It's our space around us, it's our sanctuary that we feel protected in. It's our family that we were born in, our home, our family that we create later on, and it's our feelings. How do we feel? So Mars there might feel a little bit restrained. Mars there might feel a little bit not so easy to show. So when people have Mars at the bottom of the horoscope where the 4th house is, it might not be so obvious. You might not be able to see it, especially if you don't know this person very well, because the 4th house is a very private house. It's your personality, deep emotional conditioning from childhood. So only people that know you very well will notice this Mars in the 4th house. But for those that you go to your career, to your work, that you meet, kind of in casual during the day, they might not see the Mars qualities in you very strongly because they're hidden, they're underneath basically the horizon, they're at the bottom, they're in the 4th house. And such people might look in the eyes of others sometimes like they're not so driven, or that they might be controlled emotionally in some way, but actually there is a storm underneath. There is all those passions and feelings that are kind of bubbling underneath in their subconscious or in their private life. So if someone upsets them at work, for example, they might hold their cool and later come back home, and at home these feelings can overwhelm them. When they feel comfortable, when they feel relaxed, this Mars energy then shoots out, and in negative case scenarios, this is when a person's anger can project, or if they've been upset, they can project on their family. So they can have more, it's one of the positions that can indicate someone who has more problems within their own family, more arguments. And how that usually stems from early childhood, because if you have Mars in the 4th house, or with the 4th house cusp, it indicates that often a person grew up in an environment where there was arguments, the parents might be arguing, some parents might be even divorced, because Mars is the planet of anger, of fighting. So this is the not worst case scenario, but this is the more difficult scenario. And Mars is a malefic, so sometimes such people come from families that are divorced, or from families that argued a lot in the early part of their life, or that they had to survive. There was like Mars is the survivalist planet that has to work, that has to go against the odds and fight. So maybe circumstances in the family might have been tougher, might have been more difficult, where there is more changes happening, because Mars naturally indicates more changes, or when there is more competitiveness. I've heard some people say, I grew up in an environment where there was lots of competitiveness, and where there was, the parents were fighting more, or the parents were arguing more. Or sometimes one client said, I grew up in an environment where there were lots of boys. I had 4 brothers or something like that, because Mars is a masculine energy. So it kind of creates this more masculine energy at the home and early family. And sometimes, especially if Mars has good aspects, or if it's in a good sign like Capricorn, where it acts better, in Leo, in Aries, you know, the person might have had a lot of changes in their early home environment, maybe even come from a family that is separated or fought, but this didn't affect them. They overcame it easily psychologically and emotionally. And it's, you know, like I've heard people say that they had Mars in Capricorn, and the person said, yeah, my parents were divorced, and I was moving all the time from one parent to another and changing places of living. But this actually, I felt quite protected. Everything was fine, because if Mars is well aspected and in a good sign, this doesn't bother the person handles it well. But if Mars is in a sign where it doesn't feel so well, like Gemini, Virgo, Mars in the signs of Mercury feels not so good, or in sometimes in Cancer, or if Mars is in other signs like, I don't know, signs that it doesn't feel so well, like Libra, Taurus, for example, it might indicate that the person, okay, they were arguing in the family, there was more competitiveness in the family, and the person later on, you know, keeps this anger bottled up and has expectations that emotionally things will be turbulent, that emotionally in family and at home things will be like that throughout their life, and they usually can, and this can affect us emotionally. This can affect those people emotionally in a long way, so they can have anger issues. That's one of the combinations, Mars in the 4th house, to see someone who keeps it bottled down, and one day bursts out and has can surprise even their close and loved people or others around, because those bottled up emotions in the 4th house that are stirring their feelings so much, and especially if it's been preconditioned by early childhood to be in such explosive environment around parents and family, it can just come to the surface, and at moments a person can burst out, and I'm not saying murder everyone, but can have really strong temper tantrums, and the moods can be kind of, with Mars, they can violently change there. Even for a good Mars, even a Mars that's well aspected, the moods can suddenly change and violently change, because, you know, the 4th house is the house of inner peace, and where the water should be smooth and unruffled, and Mars is that planet like a hurricane that goes there. So there is, even in moments when you see them peaceful, there is something can trigger them, something can trigger their defensiveness strongly. Usually they'll be super defensive emotionally, even if they don't show it. Again, I repeat. And I have a friend, and once we were at the cinema, they have Mars in the 4th house, and someone said behind quiet, and he said that he kind of, for at least 10 minutes he was upset after that emotionally, and that he had a strong defensive reaction to get up and protect, or to say something back, or that he felt attacked in some way. So such people can feel very defensive and attacked sometimes, but this is their nature. This is when Mars is there in the emotional world, the person reacts, you know, more, let's say, colorfully. Even if they don't show it within themselves, it starts like those big waves of emotion start moving up and down. But they can flare up emotionally, and then they can, you know, they can calm down after that. But just to say that usually this combination is also an indication that in your family, especially if you have your own family later on, and especially the first marriage, you can transfer, or not you consciously, the universe transfers a situation of discord that happened in your early childhood, say parents were divorced or arguing or more competitive. You can transfer it later on into the first marriage, because in your own family where there is more arguments. In Vedic astrology, Mars in the 4th sign from the ascendant creates a Kuja dosha, we call it, because it sends its very sharp 100 100% aspect to the 7th house of relationship, but it's only if it falls in the 4th sign from the ascendant. You know, say you're Libra ascendant or Virgo ascendant, then Virgo is the first sign, Libra is the second, Virgo is the first sign, Libra is the second sign, Scorpio is the third, and Sagittarius would be the fourth. So if Mars happens to fall there, this is how you count the signs. You start with the first, the ascendant sign as the first one. And it can create Kuja dosha towards the first marriage. What does it mean? It can be indication for divorce in first marriage, or too much arguing in the first marriage, or arguments, reacting super strongly and sensitively to the marriage partner. And in relationships overall, but especially the first marriage, because the 7th house symbolizes that, and Mars sends its 100-degree aspect to it. But if you're having problem in your relationship, because people with Mars in the 4th can often have more fiery relationships, with more arguments, with more the partner, attracting a partner that's more competitive or more bossy or more angry, or they themselves react very touchy and sensitive in relationships. There are more arguments in the home and family that they create later on. And if you're in such a situation, this is stemming from your childhood, because Mars is sending the difficult aspect from the 4th house of family and early emotional conditioning. So instead of getting upset with the partner, go and examine what are you suppressing from the childhood as memories, and what are you projecting onto this marriage. And often the universe makes it like that because when we're children, we experience, say, some Mars atmosphere at home, whether it was more competitive, whether it was more angry, whether it was more ruffled, whether there was a divorce, even if we don't remember it, even if we, you know, don't feel scarred in some way emotionally by it, or have forgotten and think everything is fine. This is what conditions us for all our life. And later on, and the child, when it was too young, could not react in the right way to these circumstances, and maybe retreated or bottled it up emotionally, or just could not react in a mature way to these ruffling emotions around happening in the home. So what happens is that the world or the universe recreates similar circumstances in their first marriage when they're conscious, when they're grown up, when they're more mature, so they can react more healthily. So they can, this time, in this situation where they can protect themselves and they have a choice how to react rather than to bottle those feelings, they can react in the right way, and they can heal that wound from childhood. So often a combination for more difficulties in first marriage, not necessarily the second one, or especially after the 27th, 28th year. If you get married after the 28th year, when Mars matures, it's easier to handle, or relationships after the 28th year are easier to handle because we have a better grip at Mars, because Mars matures at that age. Remember the Club 27, where people from the 27th year to the 28th year often can die, like Amy Winehouse and Jimi Hendrix and Janis Joplin and Kurt Cobain, because that's the year Mars matures, and that can be a very violent year. If your Mars is not good enough, if you can't handle Mars well, this is when some accidents, or even in worst case scenario, death can happen, like it happened for them. But after that year, it's not for everyone, don't worry, it's very rare scenarios, but usually after the 28th year, Mars is mature, so we can handle it better. And then we can do better in relationships, and we can do better with Mars in the 4th house in to handle this inner anger as well. But it's very good position for you to dig into the past with a counselor or advisor to resolve anger that comes from one of the parents. Usually the 4th house indicates one of the parents. It can describe one of the parents. It can be father or mother, because before it was the maternal role, but nowadays the mother, especially in divorced families or Western families, the mother might be in the role of the father, that she's the social face, and sometimes the father might be the care and nurturer. So one of the two parents is the 4th house, so the parental background, and one of the two parents might have been very martial in nature, usually was like driven, maybe ambitious, very active, very dynamic. That's the positive manifestation, often moving here and there. On the negative side, more overly protective. That's also maybe good. Protective, driven, ambitious, energetic, go-getter in some way. But on the negative side might be someone who is more argumentative, who gets angry easily, who shouts more, who is more dominating, controlling, or despotic in a sense. This is Mars, you know. that describes them, or someone that just was moving a lot or changing a lot, or someone that comes from a family heritage, fourth house, of ancestors or parents connected to Mars careers, hunters, fishers, fishermen, people working in steel, people working in surgeons, people working in the army, police, military, you know, Navy people, for example. Maybe the father or the mother side of the family had a long lineage of that. So this is the, you know, this is the not, it's not negative if you come from such a lineage. But usually, you know, there is one of the parents, it describes one of the parents very strongly. And this competitive Mars character, or more masculine, more driven. And also it can describe that maybe if it's a good Mars, you are very active in your family. There were lots of activities that you do together, say go to sports, maybe you are a very active sporting family. That's like if you have a really nice Mars, so it doesn't manifest its more negative sides, which are, you know, arguments or accidents that happen in the family, or divorce, or earlier death of one of the parents. That's in extreme cases if Mars is quite bad, or is not bad but is difficultly placed. You have to experience it. Don't blame it on your Mars, your soul chose it, you know. But early death of a parent, or divorce, or arguments, or more conflicting situation. I have clients with Mars in the fourth who in their early childhood there was a war around them, or there was you know, some changing of routines and of regimes in the government, and coups that are happening, in civil wars or unrests as well. And this reflects later in life in inner unrest emotionally to themselves. And it's one of the positions which can make you self-meditate, because the feelings are quite perturbed. The feelings are quite in the air, emotional, you know, and reacting quite defensively or quite emotionally reactive. So sometimes people with this position might, you know, try to self-medicate with whatever ways there are to calm those emotions, even though on the outside they don't show it. Again, I repeat, on the inside they're there, and they're, you know, they're turbulent. And often if they unconsciously have not resolved and forgiven parents or the past, or understood where it's coming from, it can be, those feelings can be turbulent for a long time. So as I said, the mother or one of the parents might have been active, dual, competitive, impatient, or always moving about. I have another person that would say that their mother would constantly be changing place of living, and the parents were separated, and they would go live, every time they go with the mom, should be moving to a different place. And this can even reflect later on in your life. It's a combination for someone who has later in life moves from places, changes places of living, or sometimes have even more than one home. It's not 100% for everyone with Mars in the fourth, but it's been noticed and is very likely, because Mars is movement, Mars is action, and this can reflect later on. And it's not necessary that this affected you as a child. Even if your mom or one of your parents moved a lot, or you moved a lot, oh, big deal, you know, life was more interesting. But it just creates more unsettledness, maybe being more protective and defensive of your feelings, of your family. And often such people later in life, when they have their own family, they become super protective of their family, because Mars is the warrior, the soldier, and fourth house is your family. They might be nice and sweet, but if you go attack their family, or their security, or their home, or their patriotism, their country, you know, because fourth house rules also the country, the love of your country, the love of your place of birth, your family, parents, the family that you create, oh my God, you're going against, you know, you will unleash the fury in this person, and this person can become uncontrollable. So don't go attacking their family. Don't go, they're super protective of their family, they're super protective of their loved ones as well. And they should be just careful, anyone with Mars in the fourth house, because it's the home and family, that accidents might happen in their home and family. They should always check the fire. Mars is fire. That it's usually they might actually prefer to have a fireplace in their home, because Mars is fire, fourth house is place of living, and they might be attracted to such kind of fire at home, or to be living somewhere in a hot place, for example, if it's not fire at home. But they have to be careful from little accidents, not to forget the iron, not to forget something to burn, you know, because fire burns in the home, or some accidents can happen working with machines at home in the worst case scenario. But on the positive side, they can be extremely active in their home. What does it mean? Well, they can do great DIY. They can be, Mars is physical energy, fourth house is home. So this is someone who comes back home and has energy to do things with the family, to play with the children, to, you know, to be inventive, to be full of energy and excitement and enthusiasm around the home. So such people might be doing often renovations. They won't be scared. You know, renovating can sound like such a drag or so daunting an experience for many people, but for such people, redecorating, renovating, moving to new houses, actually they come into their power then. This is when they get energized. This is when they get driven. This is when they get more ambitious. And so they're good to do things around home. They're good to do like fixing things around home, or doing home projects, or doing projects together with the family, or being active together with the family in some way. And they will do very well in any career connected to property, because fourth house rules property and places of living. When they're involved with family, with property, places of living, their enthusiasm, Mars, their drive, even their libido, if you want, goes up. And you know, that's why I've seen many people with this position who have success with property in some way, investing in property, or like fixer up or whatever, get something cheaper, decorate it, improve it, and sell it off for a better price. And such people are very advised to invest in property, but always to make sure to check for accidents not to happen, but because it's Mars after all, and especially fires, but still very good to put your energy into business connected to home, to nurturing, to taking care of children. That can be another thing. To hotels. If you want to invest in hotels, in hospitality business, to be active in anything to do with homes, with property, with hospitality, with even food and cooking, because it's nurturing home food. You know, fourth house is also where you say maybe making a hotel or a restaurant, or investing in such things, or investing in land. Fourth house is land, and even working in the fields themselves, you know, or doing gardening. Such people can be great farmers and gardeners. Physical activity on land, on farm, property, you know. And actually even Vedic ancient texts say such people can make lots of, people that have Mars on you know, in the fourth house, can make money out of property, lands, you know, and all such things. So that's a great thing. And also fourth house rules anything that's underwater or underground. They can be miners, diggers, drillers, any activities underground, you know, ocean researchers, for example. Fourth house is this, you know, and Mars is where you put your energy into. Making holes, diggers, you know, drillers, barriers, underground utilities. They might be working and putting energy in underground utilities in some way. Excavations, maybe, I don't know, like archaeologists or excavations, tunneling, submarines, subterraneans, and bunker basement structures of any sorts. Again, is the fourth house, putting your energy there. Is, you know, I don't know, being in the Navy, on water, or underground water, in submarines. But for other people, this is more like getting active at home, being busy at home, doing activities with your, if you don't do active activities with your family members, say going trekking, skiing, or doing DIY projects, or doing some gardening, the 5 Mars can reflect in a more turbulence at home, more arguments, often movements and frequent changes of place, you know. And they have to be careful also for stealing at home, someone to steal, some aggressor in the home, because Mars rules the, you know, someone who can come and damage your home, or someone who can take something from your home, you know. So they should be careful for aggressors in the home, especially if Mars has difficult aspects, or attacks at home. Emotional conflict in home, family, frequent moves, fires, accident in the home. That's, you know, but as I said, on the positive side, they can benefit a lot from investing in properties, from fixing things and stuff like that. Renovations of home, change of home, likely divorce of parents, conflict, move house frequently, social mobility. That's another thing I forgot to say. Social mobility opposed to fixed locations. First of all, they can have more than one homes. They can move a lot, say spend a few months here, a few months there in regards to their home, or Fourth house is the legacy of our parents, and Mars is a rebellious planet. It breaks through old patterns. Actually, Mars, they didn't have Uranus before 200 years, and Mars was the planet that played the role of Uranus, of breaker, of molds, of the old. It was the planet that's enemy of Saturn, to stay put, to have structure, to do everything the same way. And Mars was the opposite, innovative. And such people that have Mars in the fourth house, they can break away from the pattern of the family, the social class of the family. They can have more social mobility. If they come from a long line of miners, for example, they can break, or fishermen or whatever, they can break this family, or a long line of certain social level class family, or family that lived in certain patriarchal or whatever ways. They can separate with this old mold and this old pattern of the family and break through those old molds, so they can have more social mobility there, so to speak. So they have to be careful about the first marriage. I mentioned that. Needs to have, Mars needs a bit of space. Imagine a soldier with a sword moving around. This is what Mars feels like, and it just gives such a person, even if you're married together, to have their own room, to have their man cave, or if it's a woman, to have some more personal space where they can, they can go there and be emotional, be there with their feelings, rather than live cramped on top of each other. They just need more space around in the family, so to speak, or in the place where they're living. This can help with marriage and relationships for them as well. And as I said, might be patriotic, might have to fight in war for the country. Fourth house is the country, Mars is war. They might even volunteer for such a thing if it happens. Stronger just to protect one family. I mentioned that, how protective they are of the family. If someone is threatened from the family, they can get outraged, release enormous amount of fury. These are my notes here. And interesting, fourth house is the old age. Because this, according to astrology, is the last 20, 30 years of your life. Basically, after 42, 40 onwards, the second part of one's life is ruled by the fourth house. So usually, it's not 100% for everyone with Mars in the fourth house, but it's observed that people that have it there, they're much more active in the second part of their life than in the first part of their life. Their true drive and ambitions and initiatives, they start them later in life. Because this is the second part. Fourth house rules the bottom of the horoscope, the conditions of your life later on. And it's almost like they're incubating this drive. They're trying to understand their motivations, their drive, their ambition in the first part of life, to acclimate, to reconcile it with their feelings, and then they push it into activities and drives. So I've seen such people, super active, even in their 70s and 80s, while others, with the walking sticks. Their body doesn't even age. There is, like I've read and I've seen, their body in the older age is youthful, which is Mars. It's agile, Mars, and it's energetic. So the older they get, the more energetic they become. And exercise is so important for such people. It's good for them because this is how they channel those turbulent feelings. They can channel it out in more productive ways. Otherwise, they can self-harm. They can direct this inner anger that is emotional, that might even stem from the childhood, or that's so emotionally touchy, they can direct it towards themselves or towards their family. If it's towards themselves, this can be, like addictive habits, self-harming of some sort. If it's towards the family, it can be in some way, just bursting out of the family, creating problems there. So good for them to say, either do gardening around the house, or DIY, or just be some active to channel these emotions. But they will definitely be very active in old age. The body, robust body, refuses to age. That's, maybe when others are getting retired, they have an idea of a business and they put all their work there. And fourth house is the home. They often can bring work home, or they can work from home. That's a great position to work from home. I know the charts of 1 or 2 people that became super rich from home-led businesses. So if you ever wanted to stay at home or have home businesses and you have Mars in the fourth house, this is it, because you get active at home. You put drive there. And the fourth house rules the stomach, this part of the body that rules stomach. the breast for women, but particularly for stomach. So such people might be more susceptible to heartburns, might be more susceptible to ulcers, because Mars is fiery, inflammatory in the stomach. Especially those ulcers, if they get ulcers, it's ulcers or wounds or some problems in the stomach, heartburn or whatever, fire in the stomach basically. This might be coming because of emotional reaction, because of their feeling attacked, they're feeling provoked. So actually what can give the health problems towards the stomach is emotional unrest or bottling feelings and emotions, so having problems on the emotional level at family. So usually they come from the astral level, basically from their feelings. That's why if you have problems in your stomach with this position, try to resolve the conflict in your family, try to forgive, try to be in an environment that is less where you don't have to bottle up your anger or where you're emotionally provoked in some way, you know, and this can help with ulcers and such situations as well. And also be careful with alcohol. Alcohol is fire, water, you know, that's how it's called, and this is ruled by Mars. When it's in the 4th house, again, it can directly affect your, you know, you might even try to self-medicate with alcohol, but it might upset your stomach more than average for other people. So emotional triggers can affect their health. Also to be careful about cuts and burns, operations on the breast or stomach areas for them as well. You know, that's in regards to their health. And if you want to motivate someone, if you're Mars in the 4th house, you don't feel motivated, you don't feel driven, no initiatives, you know, nothing, you like don't feel drive. You know, when they get motivated, when they start their own family, their family brings ambition into them. Their family, having children, becoming a patriarch or matriarch, you know, can fuel their ambition, can fuel their drive. Or starting a home business, family business, or starting some activities together with your family. For example, go on a hike with your family. This is what puts your drive, your energy. You know, your family might be quite active themselves, but this is the kind of family you also will create and you want to create, and you have to be listened to in the family. You shouldn't be, if you have Mars in the 4th house, under your wife's or husband's pressure or, you know, being bossed around, because Mars in the 4th house wants to be the boss, the commander, you know, when it comes to the family. And that's what also some of the arguments can come from. So hopefully you'll be blessed with a partner who is okay with that, who can accept it, or at least to have some more space in the family. But yeah, if you want to trigger the ambition, drive and energy, having a family can do that. Later in life as well, the drive and energy comes. Or when they have to protect or take care of their family, or if they have a family business or something to do with properties and land. So thank you so much, guys. Hope you enjoyed that. Check out all my courses, check out all my webinars for amazing information. And next video will be Mars in the 5th house. Thank you.